Before we talk about how to evade an AIM-7, we need to understand how it works. Now, first thing first, when an AIM-7 is fired, its motor burns for around 3 to 4 seconds. During this time, the missile is gaining speed and energy. It's called the boost phase, written over here. As I said, during this time, missile is gaining energy and speed. And here comes the most important point of BVR fight. That is, higher the missile has the energy, or we can say more the energy missile has, higher the chance it's going to hit you. So that's the whole point of the evasion, is to force the missile to bleed off as much energy as possible. But when to do it? Definitely not during this phase, because in this phase missile has too much energy that you won't be able to outmaneuver it. We start our defense from the next phase, that is sustain phase. In this phase missile energy is not increasing. It lasts for around 12 seconds after the 5th second of missile flight. In this phase, as I said, energy is not increasing because missile has used almost all of its fuel, resulting in constant thrust, or we can say lower thrust as compared to the boost phase. So this is our golden window. We perform our maneuvers in this window to outrun the missile. Now, what maneuver do we perform? We'll talk about that in a minute in our next slide. But here is a little more information about the missile. The next stage is the burnout stage. In this stage missile has the least energy. If missile has entered in this phase, basically we are done. We have evaded it. Now let's talk about what to do, or we can say what maneuver that we should perform to outmaneuver the missile. So the first step is all about altitude. You want to stay low, I mean really low. Here's why. At higher altitude, air is thin, which means there is less drag. If a missile is flying through thin air, it holds on to its energy longer, and that's the last thing we want. By hugging the deck, or we can say by staying low, you are pushing the missile into that thick air, that dense air near the ground. That extra drag acts like an anchor, forcing the missile to bleed its speed and energy way faster than it wants to. Now, second step is all about a high G turn. A high G turn creates a massive drag onto the missile surface, resulting in more and more energy drop. Now, one turn might not be enough. You might have to pull, if you survive a turn, you might have to pull multiple turns depending upon the distance, so that chances of a survival increases, because with every turn, high G turn, missile experiences more and more drag, resulting in more and more energy loss. That's the whole point. We want missile to bleed as much energy as possible, so that it would be in a low energy state. Alright, so you get the point of bleeding energy. Now let's break it down to a step-by-step guide. Let's set the scene first. You and the enemy are roughly 20 to 30 km apart, and he launches an AIM-7 at you from about 25 kilometers. Here's what you do. Step 1. The crank. You immediately turn 30-degree off course. That's called cranking. By doing this, right at launch, you force that missile to pull a 30-degree turn instantly. It hits massive amount of drag right out of its gate. Remember, more drag means more energy loss. Step 2. You dive. We have already covered why. You drop into the thick air to keep the pressure on the missile and force it to bleed even more energy. Step 3. The final one. Once the missile has burned through most of its fuel and it's struggling to keep up, you pull a 180-degree turn into the opposite direction. Slam into that afterburner. At this point, missile is at its lower state while you have got plenty of fuel and energy power. You are using your remaining energy to outburn a bird that has already lost its momentum. The third step of turning 180 degrees is called going cold, and here is the demonstration. In a level flight, you roll 180 degrees and you pull a high G dive in least amount of time possible. You don't want to pull a sustained G or a progressive high G, but rather an instant high G pull. It's called G snap in many texts. You dive straight down. I'm sorry for the wrong diagram, but you dive straight down into the thick air and you pull another G snap. See, we have turned twice. Now slam it into full afterburner. At this point, missile is at its low energy state while you got plenty of fuel and engines. So this was all about the concept of evading a missile. Now let's see how to actually do it. So the enemy is right in front of us. So first step is we crank, as we have discussed. We maintain the course until we get a launch warning. We maintain the course, and yes, we have a launch warning. So we pull a G snap, we dive into the thick air, and right before running into the ground, I mean at a very low level, we pull a G snap again, drop some shafts, and we pull again, hoping missile will lose its energy, and yes, it's lost its energy and just fall into the ground. So yeah, that's how we do it. Thanks for watching.